Hello, guys. Welcome to Smart, Intellectual, Knowledgeable African. I'm Felitika. Before I start today's episode, let me invite you to click on the subscribe button and to also activate the ring bell so that you don't miss out on the latest episode. In the previous episode, I started discussing the basic understanding of climate change and its particular and specific meaning for Africa. Overall, my idea was for us as young Africans and young intellectuals to understand that although climate change is a global issue, it does not have the same repercussion at a national level, at a regional level, and also at a continental level. The key challenges experienced in Africa because of climate change are not the same challenges experienced in America or in Europe. Today, I want to introduce you to another concept, the concept of climate justice. What is climate justice? According to the proponent of climate justice means that those responsible for polluting our planet should actually bear the consequences of finding the solution. In another word, climate justice seeks to actually have those who are responsible for the largest greenhouse gas emission into our atmosphere to also pay or to contribute much more into finding the solution. Well, now this solution might be relevant. But let's look at the current configuration or the current situation in terms of global emission of greenhouse gas. According to the latest report, we have 6 countries plus one regional economic block that are responsible for 50% of greenhouse emissions. And I'm going to give you 5 seconds to actually guess who are those countries. Well, the top one is China. You also have the USA, you have India, you have Brazil, you have Russia, you have Indonesia. These are the 6 top polluters of our planet. And the 7th most polluter of our planet is actually the European Union. The entire bloc of European Union plus those 6 countries I just mentioned are actually responsible for at least 50% of greenhouse gas emission into the atmosphere. Well, let's now have a look at Africa. We have 54 African countries. What is their contribution to the global pollution? Well, according to the same report, and that report is actually available on the UN website, and you can also go to the World Bank and the IFC and every major development finance institution to actually have the privilege to access that kind of information. It's publicly available. You will see that Africa is only responsible for less than 4% of the global emission of CO2 into the atmosphere. What does it mean? Let's put that into perspective. Put in perspectives, it means that we have 2 categories of global polluter. On one hand, we have developed economies led by EU 27 members plus the 6 countries I just mentioned versus developing markets such as the 54 African countries that are actually responsible for 4% GHG emission into the atmosphere. For the record, when I say GHG, I refer to greenhouse gas. So, why are we in such an imbalanced situation? Well, it actually goes back to the Industrial Revolution time when we've seen a strong interest in fossil fuels, energy. Many industries, many economic sectors in developed countries, in the UK, in France, in the US, in China, in India actually, started relying a lot on fossil fuels to actually boost their economic sector, taking the transport sectors, looking at the building sectors, the use of cement and clinker in construction, So while being developed and well developed in terms of public infrastructures, on the other side, they contributed a lot and heavily into polluting our planet. On the other hand, which is quite funny actually, for once, this is one of the benefits I can think of under industrialization, is that African states, African countries did not rely that much on fossil fuels. And why? Obviously, that's because at the time, first, most African countries did not exist in terms of international law, because when considering that fact, you can actually see that around the Industrial Revolution period, many African states, many African countries were under colonization. So it is fair to say Africa literally did not play a critical role into polluting the environment. But climate justice, is about seeking reparation according to your contribution to making or creating a damaging situation. But obviously, if we have proponents of climate justice, that also means that we have opponents of such theories. I would like to know your opinion and your position, on the subject. What do you think should be the African position when, reflecting upon the solutions, the global solution that we may come up with in terms of trying to solve the issue of climate change? Should we actually aim for the application of the concept of climate justice, or should we actually be all team players and root for common contribution, the same contribution, despite having some countries who are suffering most, even though they did not contribute to creating this current chaos? Thank you for listening to S.I.K.A. Talks, the podcast where strong realities meet powerful perspectives. À bientôt.